We all know the old adage, defense wins championships. Well, the Seattle Seahawks proved that, and then some, winning 43-8, defeating the Denver Broncos in an absolute blowout in Super Bowl 48. I'm Kerry Chow, alongside ESPN senior NFL writer John Clayton. John, the defense was so incredible. Where does this defense rank all time?
Well, I mean, honestly, we have to start looking at where it compares to the 85 Chicago Bears, because the 85 Bears were number one in fewest yards allowed, fewest points, and creating the most turnovers. The next team that did that was the Seattle Seahawks this year, only 14.4 points, plus 20 in their turnover ratio, and they ranked number one for yards. And so maybe it's brash to say that this could be very similar to Chicago Bears. Hey, it's not the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s. They carried over for a long period of time. There's going to be a lot of potential turnover on this defense, but still, it's a young defense that can get together. The longevity of this thing will determine whether it is close to the Bears, but the first case gets made, this defense might be one of the best since Chicago Bears in 85 and maybe the Baltimore Ravens in 2000.
Of course, they made Peyton Manning's day just an absolute nightmare. He did, however, set a record for the most completions in a Super Bowl. But how does this game affect Peyton's legacy?
Well, I mean, his legacy is fine, and just from the standpoint he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league, and I would anticipate he comes back next year and maybe the year after that. So he still has another chance to have 13 wins and get a chance at the Super Bowl. But what you're looking at now, he's 11-12 in the playoffs, and the disappointment of this and the fact that he's still 2 Super Bowl rings short of Tom Brady and 1 short of Eli is disappointing. I mean, still, he's going to go down as one of the greatest, but to be the greatest, he probably still needs 2 more Super Bowl rings.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about Percy Harvin, the wild card. What a wrinkle and what a performance, including the kickoff returns that start off the second half. What did Percy Harvin do for the Seahawks?
Really, the fact that he was injured now turns into a benefit because he only on the field for 37 plays this year. So there was not much tape to watch to see what Seattle would do. So what they did is, use that fly sweep, which is a college play, which looks like a reverse, and it gets him so much speed. But what that does, it gets everybody overreacting to him. It worked for a touchdown in the New Orleans game, but also what it was able to do is get some speed out there, opening things up for Marshawn Lynch, for Russell Wilson, and then on the kickoff return, what they ended up doing was putting something in a wrinkle on a right side return that they never had used before. It wasn't on tape. I don't think there was a plan if they were behind or a close game to try to be able to use him on kickoffs because they needed him more important for the offense. But when you're up 22-0, you're getting the ball in the beginning of the second half. Why not? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and by gaining, they won 43-8.
They certainly did. And just how fast is Percy Harvin?
He is really fast. I know when he was being recruited by Pete Carroll to go to USC, he was running in the 4.2s. And I think what you can see, he is one of the 5 most dynamic offensive players in football and still one of the fastest. Not bad for a guy for 37 plays coming into this game.
Yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Again, the Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 48 champions, 43-8 over the Denver Broncos. For John Clayton, I'm Kerry Chow. We'll see you later.
Welcome to the post-Super Bowl edition of Inside the Huddle. I'm John Clayton for ESPN.com. Percy Harvin's 2 fly sweeps are going to create nightmares for teams playing the NFC West in 2014. Harvin gained 45 yards on 2 fly sweeps against the Broncos, a play that looks like an end around, but is run so close to the line of scrimmage a faster sweeper could be unstoppable. The NFC West is known as a physical division, but the fly sweep is a weapon. Tavon Austin of the St. Louis Rams mastered the fly sweep at West Virginia, and Jim Harbaugh used it a couple years ago with Ted Ginn Jr. Denver Bronco Vice President John Elway isn't ready to say that the age of the pocket passer has ended, but he does acknowledge that the position of quarterback has changed. Elway said Tuesday there is more of a combination of mobile quarterbacks and pocket passers than at any point he can remember. The key for the pocket passing teams such as New England, Denver, and New Orleans is making sure an offensive line designed to protect pocket passers who get rid of the passes quickly can be physical enough to run the ball and wear down defenses. The Seahawks were the 5th youngest team to win a Super Bowl, below a top 4 that had 11 Super Bowl championships during their team's runs. For a Seahawks dynasty, the Seahawks challenge is the salary cap. None of those 4 teams were in the salary cap era. In fact, it's hard to find a young Super Bowl squad that was put together for multiple Super Bowl runs. Jimmy Johnson's Dallas Cowboys had multiple Super Bowl wins, but that was at the beginning of free agency and the salary cap. The New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos had back-to-back Super Bowl wins, but they had older rosters. The Seahawks are poised, but face a tough challenge because of the salary cap. Chip Kelly's Oregon offense worked beautifully in Philadelphia in getting the Philadelphia Eagles back to the playoffs, but his biggest challenge is now making decisions at the wide receiver position. Kelly has Deshaun Jackson under contract, but he knows the value of bigger receivers. He'd like to find a way to re-sign free agent Riley Cooper and see if Jeremy Maclin takes a low provisional contract coming off ACL surgery. But adding bigger receivers is part of the Eagles' best plan. That's it for this week's edition of Inside the Huddle. We'll be back next week. Don't forget to watch The Insider Show, weekdays at 3 o'clock on ESPN. I'm John Clayton for ESPN.com.
89 days until the first pick of the 2014 draft. Who's counting? Well, we are. And Johnny Manziel is going to be a hot topic until we reach May 8th. John Clayton joining us now. And John, Wade Phillips this week told Sports Radio 610 that when he interviewed for the Texans head job in December, he told the McNairs, owners of the team, that they should take Johnny football. And then he joked, well, now he's without a job. What are you hearing about the Texans' interest in the Heisman winner?
I don't think there's any doubt that they have interest in him. The question is, do they have to take him at number one? Remember, they can still talk the idea of taking Jadeveon Clowney and maybe see if they can entice a team to trade up and then trade down and be able to at least put themselves in a position to get Johnny Manziel at a little bit of a different price and get some draft value to try to get him some assets around him. I think there's no doubt that they want a quarterback. They know that Matt Schaub's not going to be there. They know that they have to try to go out and try to find a quarterback for Bill O'Brien, the head coach. Bill likes pocket passers. That's why Teddy Bridgewater's an option if they do trade down. But I don't think there's any doubt that Manziel's got to probably top the list right now. The only debate is, do you take him number one, or do you try to dangle some kind of a trade so you can get him down a little bit lower? Regardless, they need a quarterback, and he's a quarterback.
And we know there's going to be a lot of smoke screens as the weeks roll on and we get closer to draft day. Uncertainty about what they do with that top pick, but no question the Texans are in need of a quarterback. Many teams eyeing the start of free agency. That begins March 11th. Tell us who are some of the most coveted free agents this offseason and where they might be headed.
Well, Friggin, there's a great chance that Carolina franchises Greg Hardy, Brian Orakpo of the Washington Redskins is going to be probably one of the prizes in free agency, because you're talking about a great pass rusher. But here's where the problem is. The Redskins just cleared about $15 million of cap room. They now have $25 million of cap room. I can't imagine Dan Snyder letting him out there, but Brian Orakpo, pretty much the best pass rusher if Hardy's not out there. Then you have B.J. Raji of the Green Bay Packers. You know, they're still having trouble getting him signed to a long-term contract past that rookie deal, and if he hits the market, wouldn't be surprised if Chicago, a couple other teams in need of defensive tackle, step in. He's a very good defensive tackle, an anchor of a defensive line. Hakeem Nicks is probably one of the most intriguing players, because a year ago he was probably targeted for $9 or $10 million a year once he hit free agency. Didn't have a great year. Still, number one talent. Probably can't afford him in New York, so he's going to hit the market, and some team's going to get a great prize in Hakeem Nicks. Jarris Byrd was a franchise player last year. It's unlikely the Bills will franchise him. The question is, can they get him to a long-term deal? If not, he is probably the best safety on the market, a smart player. Hey, if Chicago can't get a defensive tackle, they could use a great safety like Jarris Byrd. Expect a great market for him. Another intriguing player is going to be Aqib Talib. Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, said it's going to be hard to try to get him at the high number because he missed so many games. They paid him $5 million. He played like an $8 to $10 million cornerback. I don't think the Patriots are going to pay him that kind of money. That means he hits the market. Pro Bowl cornerbacks make good money. He's a Pro Bowl cornerback. I think he's going to hit the market and hit it pretty strong.
Kraft would love to keep him at a realistic price. I'm sure there's a big debate about how realistic that price is going to be. John Clayton with the very latest on free agency and the potential landing spot for Johnny Football. And we welcome back in John Clayton for more on the NFL. 32 teams, but we're going to have you narrow that down to the top 5 teams you're keeping an eye on this offseason. John, what's it look like?
Well, naturally, you start with Seattle because they do have a chance to repeat. They may have to cut as many as 4 players: Sidney Rice, Zach Miller, Red Bryant, Chris Clemens. That would clear up about $25 million of cap room. Now, those guys can restructure deals, maybe try to stay on the team. But I think you can see this is a very deep football team that they have options to try to at least get better. And even though they may take some losses, they're going to try to get better and get back to the Super Bowl. Indianapolis is going to try to get better than the 11-5 record they've had the last couple of years. A lot of it has to do with wide receiver. They tried Darius Hayward-Bay filling in for Donnie Avery. That didn't work out too well. They probably need one more wide receiver to try to get over the top. They have plenty of cap room, and they also have Andrew Luck. Miami was a big spender in free agency last year. They're not going to spend as much this year with a new general manager, but they need a running back. Will they go for Darren McFadden? Will they try to go maybe for Ben Tate? They've got to upgrade that position because it was a big problem last year. They tried to get a running back, trying to help out Ryan Tannehill. Over in Oakland, they've got $61 million of cap room. The bad news is they just got about everybody up for as a starter. Most players are free agents, about a dozen free agents they have to try to get. You know, what will they do at quarterback? Will they try to bring in Josh Freeman as a backup? Will they bring in a veteran like Matt Schaub? Will they actually go through the draft? Oakland, probably one of the most interesting teams to follow this offseason. And then you got the Atlanta Falcons, who, of course, fell off the planet last year with the injuries, with the problems that they have. You know, they need a pass rusher. Will they try to go up and get Jadeveon Clowney in a trade in the draft? Will they go out and try to get, say, a Greg Hardy or somebody as a pass rusher? They need a pass rusher. John Abraham went to Arizona, had a great season. They need somebody to rush the passer, help on the offensive line. Interesting team, though.
And no Tony Gonzalez, but they hope those receivers can get healthy again next season and change that 4-12 record. Now, yesterday, John, 4 Seahawks were here in Bristol. Michael Bennett, Bobby Wagner, Jermaine Kearse, and Cliff Averill. They were asked an interesting question right here on SportsCenter, and we wanted you to take a listen.
Other than the 12th man, what's the best thing about Seattle? Here are your choices: Space Needle, Fish Market, Pearl Jam, Sir Mix-a-Lot, or John Clayton. Go ahead, Cliff.
I'll go with John Clayton.
John Clayton!
Yes.
Really? You guys are all going, you're going John Clayton?
I'm John Clayton. You know why?
Why?
John too, man. When I saw John, I was like, and I better get a follow. You look like you know what you're
on
talking
Twitter.
About.
Really?
Yeah, John.
That picture does it for you, huh?
John,
Oh,
hey,
wow.
that guy right there, and he actually looks like that.
Your reaction to their favorite part about your town?
I'm flattered because I would have gone for Sir Mix-a-Lot. Love Sir Mix-a-Lot, but it's like, hey, I'm absolutely flattered. I mean, being right next to him and having him say that type of stuff, thank you very much.
Yeah, if it wasn't Slayer, we did peg you as a Sir Mix-a-Lot kind of guy. I don't know if you heard it, but Bobby Wagner said he better get a follow out of you on Twitter. So I don't want to put you on the spot, John, but if you could help him out, he would appreciate it.
I'll be happy to holla.
John Clayton, a Seattle staple and a Sir Mix-a-Lot fan. That might be our crazy stat of the day here on SportsCenter.